Hi there. Welcome to Have It All. I am your host and the creator, Anna K. Morris, and I'm thrilled that you're here because if you are here, it means that you're interested in having it all, or maybe you're curious about what I and my guests have to say about having it all. Can we? Do we know what it is that we want? And once we get it, are we wise enough to know that we have it? And are we worthy enough to hold on to it? That's what we'll be exploring on the podcast. I'm so happy you're here, and let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Have It All podcast. I'm your host and creator, Anna K. Morris, and I am so very excited that I have Dupe with me today. Witherick. Okay. With me today, she is the creator of Thrive Alcohol Free, which I have to tell you, Dupe, like in no years ever in my life did I think I would have a podcast and then the first guest I was having would be somebody talking about not drinking because it was such a huge part of my life. And 10 months ago, I quit drinking. And then we met each other and this whole conversation around having it all, right? Never in a million years did I think I would have it all by taking something out, right? It always feels like you're putting something in. But when we put things in, naturally, you have to have space to put it in, right?
Yes, exactly.
Which was my evolution to stop drinking. And I think for you as well.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait for this conversation about how you work with people and your specific journey about taking out this one little thing, this one little huge thing, right? Drinking. And you live in England, which
I do.
I've been many times. I used to live there. And I remember when I had a knee injury and I went to, what is it? NHS? Is that your medical center?
The NHS,
I went to the hospital and I filled out a 10-page document about my drinking. I was like, but my knee's out of socket. And they're like, right. But how many drinks do you have? I was like, what? The drinking culture in England is amazing. So when I met you and I was like, wait, she doesn't drink and she's British. I'm going to stop talking.
It can't be so.
It can't be.
Oh, it's so true. And if you had asked me 4 and a bit years ago whether or not I would be on a podcast with you, Anna, and I would have created Thrive Alcohol Free and would be living my best life without alcohol, I would have had another drink just to prove you wrong. You know?
I know. I would have had Aperol Spritz with you, which was my favorite drink when I lived in Leeds. And I remember many, many cocktails at my friend's flat in London, Aperol Spritz on the patio. Now I'm like looking at like Aperol Spritz. De Soy is one that I've been intrigued by because it's like one that has adaptogens and it's like a spritz. But what I noticed since I quit drinking is that I cannot stand the way I feel. I still love the ritual. And I love that like you've really leaned into like mocktails and non-alcoholic wine. And you were the judge on like the world championship of alcohol free. It's like long. It's like a long
time. World Alcohol Free Awards. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's helpful. But like, so now that I know, like I'm not triggered to have a drink just because I have a wine glass, right? Now I'm starting to explore the world of mocktails because I like feeling present and I want to feel my feelings, even though sometimes I don't like my feelings. Putting the mask on it that I had put when I would be stressed or anxious or whatever, and then like having a drink actually made it worse. Maybe not initially, but certainly like later in the next day. And yeah. So I'd love to hear from you about your own journey and specifically how taking something out has helped you to have it all. Because I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but like you've done some incredible things since taking alcohol out of your life.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's all about letting go to let in. So it's giving you that space, that free space to and we're all, we all like being busy. That's the word of the
Mm. Do we like it,
decade, the century.
or are we used to it?
I think we need to be busy.
Ah, there we
It's a
go.
culture thing.
Yeah.
And if you're not busy, if you haven't got 100 things on the go, if you haven't got a full plate, then actually you're not worthy, or you're not
Yeah.
seen as doing, or you're not achieving, or whatever. And so I always like to say you want to have about 20% free space in your life.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is you're then giving yourself the opportunity to be surprised, to be delighted, for something interesting to come in. And a lot of people
I-
give ourselves maybe 5% free space at best. And so I think if you can get to a point where you obviously, and then the things that you do as well, make sure they bring you joy. If they're not bringing you joy, don't do them. And have more things that are bringing you joy, the more things you think you should do. I think that's another thing that we all go down the route. So creating the space to let it in. And for me,
Mm.
I discovered that by ditching alcohol,
Mhm.
I wasn't giving anything up. I was actually gaining lots. And by taking this one thing out, created space and opportunity, and just amazing things started to happen. So I very much, if I go back to my story, if I think about it, I would say I was a normal drinker. I
Yeah.
wasn't, there was no rock bottom. I didn't need any medical intervention. There was no DUI. There was no reason for
Right.
me to not drink. So in theory, if I wanted to drink tomorrow, there'd be no problem with it. I
Right.
could do it. The
Yeah.
reason
Same.
I don't do it is because I've now discovered that actually I've created that space, which has
Mm.
allowed me to then start doing a lot more and having it all, but most importantly, in my own authentic way, and taking advantage of things that maybe I didn't take advantage of. And that is they're simple things. So
Mm.
for me, one of the best things about not drinking is actually being fully present with my
Yeah.
family and friends. It's being walking in nature and actually noticing the little what we would class as ordinary things that we don't really see. I saw a double rainbow the other day, and that gave me so much joy.
Oh, I love it.
You see the
Yeah.
clouds rolling past and the different flecks and the different, they're the sort of things that just make me, when I see a rabbit running past, that makes me happy. So
Yeah.
it's not about necessarily the massive things, and I've done that as well, but really it's on an everyday, just being
Mm.
comfortable in your own skin, being able to be authentic, doing the things that bring you joy, saying no to the things, and knowing you have boundaries and you could actually set those boundaries and you don't care what other people think.
Yeah.
Those types of things, they are things that not drinking have given me. And so I, like everyone, I imagine, probably tried a drink or two with my friends when I was about 16, 17, still at school. Didn't really feel like I liked it that much. I was a bit of a nerd, I think. So I was wanting to get good exam results, and I didn't really want to jeopardize any of that. So I was quite focused. So it was only really when I went to university, and the first week of university we have here is called Freshers Week. And back then, it's getting better now, but back then, Freshers Week basically meant drinking as much as you can to get to know people and feel relaxed and just sort of,
Oh my God, that
you
sounds
know,
awful. Okay. Yeah.
it was the thing. You wanted to sign up to clubs, and you wanted to make new friends. You were away from home, and so everything seemed to revolve around drinking. And so that was the introduction, I think, to me to start, and if you didn't drink, then you were weird. There were people in
So it
my sort
automatically
of,
started the conversation of a couple of things that I'm hearing, right?
yeah,
Number one, you have to have alcohol to feel comfortable with people.
yeah, yeah,
And number
exactly.
two, if you're not doing what everybody else is doing,
Yeah,
then you're coined like an outcast or weird, or you
absolutely.
don't belong. And like we know, like I would imagine most people listening to this podcast will know that like our sense of belonging is off the charts, right? Like
Mm,
we will choose belonging over everything else,
yeah.
right? To our
It,
detriment.
even if it's not in alignment,
Yeah, even if
absolutely.
it's not in alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it was, because if I think back, it was all about me feeling like I was fitting in. You know,
Mm.
I was at this university that everyone said is one of the best universities in the country. You want to go there, you want to fit in. There weren't, you know, if I look back, there weren't many people that looked like me there. You
Yeah.
know, I was in a hall of residence with like 180 people. And what I remember, so that was where you sort of stayed for the first year. So that's where you
Mhm.
lived. And there were two people who I vividly remember didn't drink, and no one talked to them. And so again,
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
there
want to
you
be the
go. So that's
person who didn't want to be, you know, I wanted to be
right.
sociable.
Well,
I
and
wanted everyone
but
to
see,
like me.
this is
Yeah,
so pivotal, right? Because you're in your
yeah,
40s now, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that gets imprinted. That was what, 17 years old, you said?
18. Yeah, 18
18.
years
At
old. Yeah,
18 years old, it gets
yeah,
imprinted. And you
yeah,
remember those
yeah.
two people, those
Exactly.
weirdos.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And so not
Oh,
drinking to me
so
was people are
good.
boring, people are
Yeah.
weird, I
Yeah.
don't trust them, there's something that's a bit
Right.
dodgy about
And
them.
so no wonder you don't think to not drink. It's
No.
like not even a thing that occurs. Like I also, didn't have a thing with alcohol. However, I knew in my soul,
Yeah.
in my journals, that it was
Yeah.
like not working.
Exactly. Exactly. But you wouldn't do anything about it. I
No.
probably, you know, I had times in my 20s where, you know, like everybody, you party hard, the
Yeah.
next day you feel awful,
Right.
and you know deep down this can't be really good for you, but there's no way you're going to stop. And then a few days later you feel fine. I think in my 20s there was one time where I probably didn't drink for about 2 months because I had such an awful experience.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not drinking. And I didn't. But
Yeah.
then I sort of went back to it. And, you know, and I think again, you felt like you couldn't because every time you went out,
Yeah.
if you weren't drinking, it was a bit odd. And then you'd make
100%.
excuses for why you weren't drinking. You'd have to justify it. And so it carried on. So then I sort of left university and I lived in Spain for a year while I was in
Oh,
university. So part of
yeah.
my degree was I did management studies with Spanish. So a year of that was studying management studies in a Spanish university, which was fantastic. But at the time, again, red wine was a big thing. The vineyards, going and visiting those, feeling sophisticated. You know, that was probably the first time I was introduced to those heavier red wines and also gin and tonics. And I remember they
I
used to do
love
these
both of
like
those.
fish bowls of, you know,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
big balloon glasses of gin and just pour the gin and it wouldn't stop. They just keep pouring, and then they'd add a bit of tonic. And you know, looking back, it was about 50p, 60p for that. So as a
Yeah.
student, you're like, this is a bargain. I'm having a nice, you know, I'm having a drink. Probably not the greatest thing. Anyway, I then went to I started working, and that was in the city. I started working in the city of London, and again, the culture was very much work hard, play hard. It was
Mm.
we're going to work, you know, long hours, but then we're going to go out and celebrate wins, or we'll go and network and we'll do conferences, and all of that seemed to be, you know, get clients. I was a management consultant for many years, so again, that was very much dinners with wine, and
Mhm.
you just it's something you just did. So at no point did I ever think this isn't a good thing or this isn't something I want to
Well, and
do.
I just want to reframe it even. It's not that it's a good thing, it's that, does this work for me?
Is it serving me? Yeah,
Is it
exactly.
serving me? Is it,
Yeah.
I always look at things like not from a place of judgment, but like, is it
No.
working or not working?
Yeah.
And
And
I've
that's
been on this
exactly
whole,
it. Yeah.
yeah, I've been on this whole kick of like putting integrity into all parts of my life. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, I can see that like I haven't been dealing with some stuff on my website. Like that's not working. I can't grow when the integrity is out on some functionality of my website, just like my body can't perform when I'm out of integrity
Yeah.
and putting alcohol in it. Like it just doesn't perform as well. That's it.
Absolutely. And
And we
that's
can
what
take like the judgment away from it.
there is no judgment. There's never any judgment. Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's the question I always ask potential clients, ask my clients,
Mm-hmm.
if can life be better in
Mm.
spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally without alcohol? That is the
Yeah,
question. We ask ourselves, am
that's
I an
it.
alcoholic? Am I this? Am I
Yeah.
that? Am I
Yeah.
drinking
Yeah.
too much? It's the wrong question. Fundamentally, if
Mm.
life could be better in some way without alcohol, and you know deep down life can be better, then take a break. So then it got to the point, let me sort of rally back. And that's what I did. I took a 21-day break. It got to the point where I felt that I kept having this nudge, this voice, this thing saying to me, actually, by stopping drinking, something better's coming. The truth will set you free, I kept hearing. And I didn't know what I was being set free from. I had a good life. I had a, I'd climbed, I had a great job, climbed Kilimanjaro. On the outside, everything I was still achieving. I'm a high performer.
I want to point to, like, there doesn't have to be something wrong.
No, exactly.
And there was nothing wrong in my life either.
Yeah.
I remember writing very clearly, I think if I stop drinking, I'll make $1 million. I don't know where that came from, but I was like, I feel like if I take this one thing out, it'll be the domino of all the other things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
When we listen to that little voice, it works.
It does. Yeah. And it is the domino habit. It just, you are basically giving yourself the mental capacity, the space, the time, everything comes back for you to focus on all the other habits you want to create and build in your life. So I absolutely agree with that. And it is taking away that one thing. And so to your point, can you take something away and still have it all? Absolutely. Of course you can, because if you stop drinking suddenly, and this isn't just me. So if you're listening to this and thinking, well, it was good for you, whatever, so many people, and actually what astonished me when I was looking into this and researching when I originally stopped drinking, the number of celebrities, if we go with celebrities, because everyone listens to celebrities, right? So number of celebrities who don't drink, who I wasn't aware of.
Oh no, I was aware.
Of them went on, once they stopped drinking, to win Oscars, to get the best film roles, to sing, write the best songs, to do everything in their life. And a lot of them acknowledge that they knew something was holding them back. They knew they weren't performing at their best. They knew that this wasn't the life that they really wanted. They knew they could be better. So if you feel like you're stuck, your career isn't where you want it to be, if you feel like you're frustrated in some way with your family life and you haven't got the best relationship you want, maybe with your partner, whatever it is, take out alcohol and see what happens, and just do it for a really short space of time. I did it for 21 days. And during that time, so many little things happened that made me think, I'm going to keep going. And it's now over 3.5 years, it'll be 4 years in November of me not drinking. And I have to say, the joy it's given me, the freedom, it's Thrive Alcohol Free is why I called my company. It was all about the thriving part. The alcohol free bit, get rid of the booze. We can do that. We can ditch drinking. It's not easy necessarily, but it's absolutely possible. But lots of people stop drinking and then feel that they are in some way not quite enough, or they're not able to, they always have this, oh well, I've always, I've got a problem, it's me, I've had the issue, and then they hold themselves back from actually enjoying life. They're not necessarily going after what they want to go after. They're not seeing the benefits that you can absolutely get by stopping drinking, because they're beating themselves up in some way. They're thinking about maybe what they've done in the past, and they're not stepping into their true potential. And so what I love to focus on is the thriving. It's, now that you've stopped drinking, how do we get you to thrive? How do we get you to have it all? Because you absolutely can.
I think that so much of celebration is tied to alcohol. For me, it took like reframing that. Like, I used to sell glassware. So I love like beautiful coupes and like beautiful glassware. And after several months of not drinking, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to AA meetings. I don't relate to myself as an alcoholic. And also I know that I misused it. I'm clear about that. But I did need to put the celebration back in. Okay, so what does that look like? Right? Like I remember making like lavender honey syrup. so that I could have that with like a sprig of rosemary and a coupe with like, some sparkling water and a bit of Sprite. So that's a little bit sweeter, right? Like a cocktail would have been. And so then I started noticing that a big part of drinking alcohol for me that was missing was the creativity. And that was around the time that you and I met. So we met back in January. And seeing like your mocktail list, right? And realizing that I can be just as creative with the drink. Cause that really like, I always wanted to be a mixologist. So for me to not drink, I was like, but wait. And certainly like the options are different. I don't even want to say that they're less. I'm not sure that they're less. They're just different, right? But that has been something that I've really leaned into since meeting you, and also recognizing that because I have a mocktail does not mean that now I'm going to start drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
And it took actually, like it took me, I had a glass of wine. I think I told you when I was on your podcast that like I had a glass of wine because I recognized, and there was no non-alcoholic option. It was at a vineyard. And I had the glass of wine. And by the end of it, I was like, I wanted to get out of my body. It was a very distinct feeling of like, I don't want to be in this container. I can't stand how I feel. I hate it, hate it, hate it. I was guzzling water to like try to like get it out. I was like, I feel like I need to go for a run to like get this out of me. But I loved the ritual of it. So how can I keep that and the celebration without the feeling? And that's what I love about what you've got on your website. I know that you've got like, what is it, a 10? I have it. It's so good.
The 10 must-have mocktail recipes. Yeah.
And I've been making them this summer. And like I muddled like strawberries and basil and mint and I got some Fresca, which is like something that I used to drink like, with probably vodka. And now I'm like mixing it with club soda. And like, it's just so much fun. And I still have all of the celebration, and then I don't feel bad. And I don't feel like, for me, when I stopped drinking, that was actually my like gateway to having it all.
Yeah, it's so true.
And was that like, I want you to, if you would share some of the things, because sometimes we need to know like, well, what did she like, what's so good about like after you stop drinking, what are some of the things that you could put on your CV about like after you, because I know, and I'm like really want people to know what like specifically with running I think is really interesting.
And it's all about changing the ingredients but keeping the ritual. And it's tricking the mind. And I think I just wanted to highlight that. It's so important to do that because then you don't feel like you're missing out. And it's funny when you talked about glassware, why, we give them names: champagne flute, wine glass, short glass, which you sort of associate with whiskey and things. But actually they're just glasses. Okay, you can put anything you want in them. But you're right, having an adult drink is something that absolutely helps you along the way. But thank you. Yeah, I mean, since it was funny. So one of the first things that happened during that month in November, when those 21 days, something happened at work where I was just at the point where I knew, and it had been happening recently, that I just wasn't valued. I wasn't being, my worth wasn't being recognized. I'd been at the company for 9 years. I'd had lots of promises, lots of dangling of carrots, and this is going to happen for you. This is going to happen for you. And then I had a conversation where I was just like, gosh, they're actually taking the mick now. This is not cool. And normally what I would do, I'll explain the alcohol, so 21 days before, this is what I would have done.
I love that this happened right so immediately. I'm like,
it was amazing. So 21 days before, I would have poured a glass of wine. I would have been bitching to my husband about the company. I would have said, listen, I'm worth so much more than this. This was all while I would be drinking wine. It's worth so much more. I could do this. I need to get out. I need to sort of spread my wings. And then because I would have had a couple of glasses of wine, the next morning I'd wake up feeling a bit rubbish. And I'd be like, oh, well, things are going to change. They had promised me all these things. I have been here for so long. Loyalty means something. I'll
You
just
talk
put up
yourself
with
out
it.
of it.
And you talk yourself out of it. And what I
100%.
actually, so that day, there was no booze. And I sat with the feelings. I sat with the
Yes.
emotions. And I was just
Oh,
like,
so
what
much.
is this?
Yeah.
What is this telling me about, if I don't do anything about this, what is it saying about me? Does it say I've got no respect for myself, that I'm happy to just be mediocre, that I'm happy to put up with all this crap? Or does it say, actually, I need to do something about it? And at that point, I made the decision that I'd had enough and I was going to do something about it. And it was the best decision. And all of a sudden, these opportunities, I spoke to a couple of my
Yeah.
friends, bless
No,
them.
not all of a sudden.
And
No.
yeah,
Like it's
no,
because
yeah,
you did something. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what happens when you
yeah,
sit with the feeling.
yeah, yeah,
Because when you feel the disrespect, the out of alignment, the all the things, then you probably start getting mad. Like
yeah,
most people start to get like
absolutely.
pissed and
Yeah,
you get super fed up. And that spurs action.
absolutely.
And when we
Absolutely.
have that anger and we put some wine on it
Yeah.
or whatever your beverage of choice and you numb it out, man, does that keep you stuck?
It does. It does keep you
Oh,
so stuck, so stuck. So
fucking good.
I spoke to a couple of friends and I remember saying, I'm just fed up. And when I told them what had happened, they were like, you're just, people are they're just being disrespectful now. You need to move on. And then I started having phone calls. People were phoning me up, people emailing me, would
Yeah.
you be interested in this? Would you be
Yeah.
interested in that? Anyway, long story short, I ended up going through a process in that January, got this headhunted for a role, which was amazing, like my perfect role at the time. But I was also doing coaching. So I also started to do coaching because I
Yeah.
thought I wanted to be a coach. So I started a transformational coaching qualification. I thought, well, I'll go down the two routes. I'll see, I'll carry on with the coaching, go down that route. But actually, this role looks pretty cool. And so why don't I also have those conversations? It transpires that I had a couple of conversations. They were really keen to get me into this company. And I had a conversation with HR and they said to me, right, well, tell us what you're thinking in terms of compensation. And so I gave them a number, which I thought was, yeah, I'm going to give them that number. And they said, oh, well, it's a bit toppy, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, they came back and they actually offered me more than I was looking for. And it ended up being over 2 times my salary that I was being paid at my current role. And so I
Yes.
completely
Yes, it was. Yes.
quantum
Because here's the
leaped.
thing. This is all about your value. This
Mm,
is all about your
mm,
self-worth,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I want to jump into just to pivot, and then we're going
mm,
to wrap up because we could be here
yeah,
forever, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Justin Timberlake,
yeah.
have you heard about him in the news?
Not
He
recently,
was
no.
just pulled over and got a DUI, DWI, I don't know, whatever it
DUI,
is,
yeah,
DWI. I
yeah.
think the story that I heard, is that he's had 7 martinis. He was out in the Hamptons. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, of course he did.
Mm, mm.
And my friend that told me this, they were like, well, why do you say that? I was like, his life was going too well.
He sabotaged himself.
100%.
It's all about the
Right.
big leap. It's all about the
It's
upper
the big
limit.
leap. I know. And it's like, and they were like, no, but he was already successful. I was like, no, he wasn't in the way that he is now. He's been on world tour, all of that, but he didn't have Jessica Biel and the kids. Now he has this incredible home life, this incredible family, right? And he's not like doing voiceovers for trolls or a movie here, a movie there. He's on stage by himself, owning his power. And what does he do? He goes and gets wasted.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't just get wasted, he then drives.
Oh dear.
Right. And so I'm like, that just speaks to the celebrate this, right? But it's not actually the celebration. It's that you can't stand how good you have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the flip of like what you were saying about the disrespect. It's like you can't stand that either because you don't want to sit with the feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really what I'm always pointing to with alcohol. It's like you have to let yourself sit with the feeling. And when you did that, it's not an accident that like, oh, then this headhunter out of nowhere. I'm like, it's not out of nowhere.
No.
You set the wheels in motion on a new road called I am worth it. Fuck off if you don't think so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was just, it was incredible. So that was just one thing.
Oh,
And then
so
and
good.
then with the running, we'll touch on the running, and then obviously I know I
Yeah,
want to get to the end.
I
But
know.
this is something that it's something you talk about, because one of the things I also say is that a lot of people who stop drinking don't actually then know what they want with their life. And I ask clients all the
Right.
time, what is it you want, or what do you enjoy doing, or where do you see, what are your goals? And a lot of people can't answer it. A lot of people have lost that self-love as well, and they don't know what their passions or hobbies are, because their passion and hobby has been drinking and sitting in front of Netflix. That's been their passion and
100%.
hobby. And so I remembered that I quite liked running as a child. I hadn't run
Yeah.
since I was 15. So at that point, I was, about to turn, no, I was 40 already. I was 40 when I started running again. And about to turn 41, and I did a 10K program. And I just started running one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And since then, I've now, then I did that, got the bug, did a couple of half marathons, and I've now run 2 marathons as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's in the space of it was in the space of about 3 years that
Yeah.
I suddenly, well, not suddenly, I know you keep saying it's not suddenly, but I am now a runner. And again, that was me leaning into, what did I love doing before? What have I not
Yes.
done? And
Well, and
actually, you do have
also
to go back to childhood, go back to
going back
teenage
to childhood. Yeah,
to
that's super important. That's where I take all of my clients. It's like I had somebody I love one of my clients, and she said, I mean, I love all my clients, but I love specifically that she was like, no, I've always been a serious kid. I'm like, that's
yeah,
just not, I mean, I have two. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing serious about either one of them,
yeah,
right? She
exactly.
was like, no, I was really serious at 6. And I was like, what happened at 6? She was like, my parents got a divorce. I was like, okay, we need to go to 4. We
Yeah.
need to go back before like,
Mm,
because there, there's nothing serious when you're a kid.
no.
Those are learned behaviors that we do to
Mm,
like survive.
mm,
Trauma, not trauma, doesn't matter. Like we start to develop ways of being
yeah,
to have it work better, right, in our families,
exactly.
right? No blame to the parents, no blame to you, but we just do that. And so we've got to look early on. Like
Mm,
we met largely because of the summit that I just ran. I was doing that at 4 years old. I was
mm,
getting people together and starting things up and then
yeah,
watching to see what happens. Like I've
yeah,
been doing that. So once you give yourself that 20% free space that no alcohol can provide, let's face it, like maybe more. It might be more than 20%. I think for me
bit
it
more,
was.
definitely. Yeah, at
Right?
least
Then you can
20%.
actually
Yeah,
like discover what you love. Like you love running,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so you went on to do that. You went on to write a book.
I've written a book, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I've started a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm now a fully, fully coaching. That's what I do now. I don't work in the corporate world anymore. So I am an alcohol-free well-being and transformational coach, and lots of other things in between. So
I
I
love
practice
that.
yoga every day. I've really built into my life meditation and
Yeah.
routine, and just healthy habits and healthy ways of living that serve me and my
Yeah.
life, and it's just been a
So
joy.
I think I know your answer, but I'm going to end every podcast with this question because I've always loved, and I would just mention this to you before we hit record,
Mm.
How I Built This by Guy Raz, which one day I can't wait to have him on the podcast. So I'm just putting it out there, guys,
You will have
that
him,
like you'll be on the
definitely.
podcast, right? And
Yeah,
he always ends with this, with one question, and here's the question that I always want to end with: Do you think we can have it all?
absolutely, if you stop drinking.
Do you think that's the caveat? Oh, that's good.
I fundamentally believe that taking out this one thing
Yeah.
opens up the door to everything, and it gives you a superpower. It's the best kept secret because people don't shout about it, and there's so many misconceptions about people that don't drink. But actually, if you take this one thing out, you can go on and do anything you want to do. If you'd asked me 4 years ago and said to me, you'll be a coach, you'll be coaching women and helping them live their best life, reach their full potential, and they'll be thriving. If you said to me I would have written a book, no, I hadn't read that many books in the I've read more books in the past 3 or 4 years than I had in the past 20 years prior to drinking, because it just I've done so much work. I've invested so much in myself on various courses, on various coaching, and I just think it's so important, because I've learned so much about myself and I've become a better person. If you'd said to me I would have, well, even just the not drinking thing would have been alien to me. But if you'd said I would have run 2 marathons, I mean, what? At 40, 43 and 40, just before I was 44? No, what? So it's just, life keeps giving. There is so much out there that's hidden in plain sight, and we know who that phrase comes from. But there's so much out there that is for us to get. And what we do is we talk ourselves out of it, and we say it's not possible, or we say we're asking for too much, or we in some way play down what we really want because we think we're going to be disappointed. Get rid of that notion. Think about, what if it does work out? What if all my dreams come true? What if everything I want to create in my life actually happens?
I'm going to stop you right there. That's it. What if it does work out?
Yeah.
What if all my dreams do come true? So, Dupe Witherick, thank you so much. You can find Dupe. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. I love you so much. You can find everything Dupe has been talking about. If you want to dive further down the rabbit hole of not drinking, have her hold your hand through it, have her support you through it. It's Thrive Alcohol Free on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, website, all the things. Thank you for the consistency. Mine is consistent as well. And it's like, it makes it just so much easier, right? Like Thrive Alcohol Free. And I love that. Like, just to recap, do you think we can have it all? She said, yeah, if you stop drinking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I love the clarity of that. It's like, yes, and there's work to do.
Yeah.
It takes that co-creation. It takes
something out
partnership.
Let go to let in. Absolutely.
I love you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being here. It is an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you as we expand in the world. What is it that we want? Do we believe that we can have it all? I hope this episode gave you some insights and some things to think about, and most importantly, some actions to go and take in your own life. If one of those actions is reaching out to me, I'm so thrilled and honored. You can always find me on my website, annakmorris.com, and you can always send me an email, hello@annakmorris.com. DM, texting, if you have my number, any of that is great too. And I would love to be in touch with you and help you have it all. I love you and thank you so much for being here.